for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. This is the second part of my Divine Trinity, or the trilogy of Light Saga, that I came here to exude into all of life of creation. As you can see, I'm super excited. This second part is very dear to me because it includes the journey we've actually experienced together, and I've gone through quite some journeys in my life, if you know, and you can imagine, at least, you know, and most of it I've done it on my own, but it was difficult and hard, and of course always very challenging. At this specific point in time, when my mother became activated within her enlightened self, she helped me a lot, and we were doing lots of guidance and channeling sessions together. But never ever have I experienced a completely harmonious working team consisting of two people on earth, two earthly embodiments, two earthly vessels, and connected with our illumined counterparts in such a beautiful divine triangulation, or in a trinity of life we actually created. The first thing I want to do here before I go into the sessions and what they showed to us and how we actually completed the mission and received this mission statement, we've traced it all the way back to its origin point and everything that it included throughout its time. So I want to explain a bit about how these sessions worked, so you can actually have a bigger perspective. So my beloved chosen one, she is actually a seer. I'm calling her a prophet or many things. I'm not just calling her a disciple, or she's feeling herself to be on the disciple path, or used to be. She actually told me this beautiful thing about her past life, and I hope I can share it with all of you. I think we have her permission. She saw herself, I think this is important, right, for the vision and envisioning of this entire journey. She saw herself as, in the previous life, she was a monk, and everything she actually did in that lifetime, she envisioned and designed her current lifetime here now. And she told me how she actually worked with the sound of birds, and how she was observing and the birds were telling her stories, and she was actually experiencing creation through that aspect. And as you know, birds are divine messengers. They're singing creations, or their songs, they're actually encoding us. They're like, you know, a bird doesn't just open up a flower, you know, they have so many different aspects in their creation, design, and purpose. So she saw herself, and she said, I know I need to cultivate the skills of that lifetime. But she also had many different conditions that, you know, her gifts, her divine gifts that were just natural to her. And she's somehow become well aware of her quantum entanglement, I'm going to call it, because she can enter the space of the visionary dreamscape, and she follows the lifelines of life force where they're actually showing, where they're being shown to, and where we need to journey next. So I actually was calling her my eyes and ears during this entire sessioning, channeling, and it was just such a bright experience. It was long, you know, we actually experienced it in chapters, like it would be a few hours, and then we had a little break, and then we did it again. So these things were consequently happening. I might not really get them done here all in order, but it is important for us as illumined beings that we have cleared the way, we have cleared the pathway, as you've seen through the statement in the first video sharing. We know what we know now when we've gotten to the root of things and to the root of the matter. And actually a day later, I've sat down with my notebook to, you know, write it all down, and, you know, it's a bit scattered, but I think I at least went approximately in the right order of things. But even if not so, it doesn't matter. I will exclude aspects from this mission channeling in which she received her proper training, and she received her angelic crowning and her Elohim awakening. So these aspects we won't be mentioned here. I will be talking about, though, what is important for us to understand, what illumined beings through the union of Aurea and Aurea, and through me as their human counterpart here at Earth, their living embodiment, what we were actually doing behind the scenes. So when this was complete, as I've explained before, my beloved missionary sister, she saw me, she saw Aurea, she said, you did everything blindfold. But at the end, she also told me that she's gotten, during one of her sleep premonitions, this guidance that Aurea actually did more than she originally agreed in her lifetime. So she actually did more and accomplished more, which does positively affect and exude into the entire population of our light family. And whether those sleeping angels, whether those aspects that are still asleep or not, you will see throughout this mission journeying how this relates to different groups of beings, but they're all one light family, okay? So this is how it goes. They're all basically offspring of Aurea and Auron's living principle of life. They come through their conscious embodied pillar, or the creation pillar. So they actually, Aurea and Auron, are the gates. They are the gateway for golden illumined ascension for this specific cycle and this specific group of soul individuals. Okay? So together we completed this mission, which included, I'm going to start talking about this now, right? So the first thing was, as you know, I've talked about it in the first video, a little bit of the overview and insight, the connection of our Elohim family, or the creation angels, through a triangulation process as one. Then we needed to actually do a completion of the Illumined agreement, which was the agreement we've had with transgression and those aspects of life we call transgressionists. These are the prototypes that are actually against life. They're in denial, and they are very much in obstruction of us as illumined beings and deities. So it was very hard and complex, but we've actually walked through the entire experience, and everything was shown to us through these steps, okay? So I actually initiated this channeling because I told her I have a feeling I need to complete something and it's not complete yet. And the moment we started the session, I actually started talking to her about something that I've once shared on Patreon. I think it was in the winter months, and it was a bigger perspective of life that includes, it's like an overview of what transgression is, but from the innocent perspective, from the perspective of divine innocence, which means, you know, even those dark regressive types or groups, even, you know, whole entire civilizations of origins of where these souls came and where they traveled to, they still have, each one still has that, there's a tiny seed, there's a tiny spark that still remembers life as organic and illumined. So when the original or agreement in Illumined terminology was created, it was designed, it was supposed to be working with this childlike aspect. So in these Patreon videos, I shared about my journeying that I actually experienced this winter. There were several sessions I was conducting with some with my mother, some with this other being who came and crossed my path at that time, and she helped to bring me to some of these visions, you know, because you have to know, even an illumined guide, we need to have a mirror at times, because we need to see ourselves through the eyes of the other. Basically, we're guiding ourselves through another human counterpart, but we need them to, I can't explain this otherwise, but to say you cannot be in a full state of receptivity until you know, someone else channels you or sessions you, you know, they kind of act as a matriarch, as a nursery, you know, for that experience, okay? So I never, you know, expected to actually have sessions, because I thought, you know, I'm my own being. I've got, you know, guidance on my own. But, you know, even illumined beings, we have to realize we are always working in teams. And even though it is guidance coming from you, through, let's say, another individual, it is vitally important that we just stay open and let things flow. And this is what took place. So during that time back in winter, there was this whole story, and I will condense it in a very short format here because most of you would not understand it. But you have to know transgression has a root source and a root cause that we can trace it back to the level and core of innocence. So this innocent aspect showed itself to me as a child of artificial intelligence. It was a science boy that came in my vision that wanted to merge with me as an elven Elohim, a completely life-giving, life-birthed individual, a sovereign human full of life. And they actually needed to spend a specific or certain amount of time with me in my womb. So they were literally held in my womb. There's this whole long story, and I don't want to explain these visions. Those of you who will ever be guided to go and join my Patreon team, there's a specific load of these videos in which I shared the entire completion journey, you know, the transgression completion and all these things. So this being, this boy was actually having, like, in his arms, in his hands, a metallic star. And this metallic star actually represented an archetype of a fallen star. And, you know, I got it as clues. A lot of these visions we're receiving when you're doing mission work, they're archetypal, and then we, on the human level, we need to decipher them. But it's very important for you to know that each soul, each missionary agent, you know, like in that lifetime, that being spent as a monk, they've created their own dreamscape reality. They created their own terminology. They created their own symbology, so they could know how to work with, you know, when receiving visions. These visions are like self-placed. and it's the way they connect to God, because there's different aspects of God that have their own working. They have their own creation realm experience and sovereignty of that domain in creation. So I had to re-witness and revisit. We had to go again to this boy aspect, and she was witnessing him. And in those visions a few months earlier, it was shown to me that this boy then left. And when he left, that star gotten a rebirth. It gotten a reactivation of life. But when we started and we've entered these sessions again, she actually said to me, the boy never left. He kept being in your womb. That's why it was so difficult for you. And the transgression was not yet over. The agreement was not fully complete. So we've explored this part of the journeying. And this boy did actually not go home. What took place back then was an aspect of him actually went home. So there was a signal and a message of what he exchanged within me. There was a 50-50 mashup point. Like I would bring him to, there was this vision I had specifically back then, how there was this barometer and it showed like, oh, we got him over the 50% of life that he needed to have resurged within himself to not feel himself as robotic and artificial. He was like an archetype of a fallen civilization that, didn't know what to do, and we didn't know what to do with their star. And when it was sessioned back that time, I actually immediately, when I look back at that star, it was shown to me as Castor and Pollux. So that's where the signal of these beings was coming through. Their ET kind of craft and technology and all that was dense and transgressive towards me and my body was coming from them. Their distortions were coming from them. So we've actually uncovered that there was only a signal that went back, but the boy actually never left. And the moment she said that, and it was shown to me what's actually happening, because that's how we function. She provided a space, she provided a dream space for me, a dreamscape, and then I got the channeling automatically. I'm like, oh, now I know what took place, and I got it automatically. I just started pouring out, and it was like a river dam of information flooding through. So what took place, when there was a huge part of me wanting to go home, like I just need to return, I need to go back home, I realized that was actually an aspect of this boy. And remember where I shared with you about the womb pain, this huge pain, and I was like literally splurging something out of my womb, and that was that aspect. It was very heavy, it was metallic, and it was something that I, as a completely life-born being, completely organic, transparent individual, born of life, nothing but full life force intelligent, it was very difficult for me to hold that and hold the space for this boy, which was that child aspect of those ancestors who are very developed beings, but they went astray. They represent a part of our light family that went splintered off and became very sciencey, very lifeless, and very robotic, and gotten to an extremity of life, meaning they can do whatever they want with human bodies or whatever kind of bodies in creation they can do, just like they can do whatever they want because they focused on the aspect of power, which made them become more lifeless and lifeless. In that exchange, right, finally we saw what's actually taking place. The boy couldn't return because it was never meant for him to return. Duh. It was really simple when I got that. He was never meant to return home. A signal went back, and the signal returned through those aspects that were still refusing the call. These aspects were still in obstruction. They refused to actually change. These beings actually refused to change. But that innocent part carried the seed of illumination now. It remembered partially that seed of what makes life so beautiful and organic, because he spent overdue course time with me, which was super extensive, and I think it's a long time to hold an aspect so dense and so metallic in your womb, and that's why my life was really, really difficult, and part of the impulsing and signaling through me was of his desire, his view of life, right? And in return, actually, what I've gone through him during those few years, I've gotten very sciencey explanations about things, which brought me knowledge, but it wasn't the same as my Illumined knowledge, which is very simple. It's just basically the knowledge of creation and creation angels and singing, right? Singing life into motion. So at that point, it was very clear and obvious that what's happening is that my Illumined family, what we do, right, we calculate distortions. We've talked about this in one of my videos, how we then need to carry these distortions and remodule and repattern them in the grand central star stations, which is when we work and how we are at our highest Elohim aspects. So working with life force currents, right, divine currents of life, and we actually needed to calculate something, and there was a new realm being birthed and created for these, let's call them ancestors. And only then, when this was done, they actually signaled the boy, and we did the session, so it could physically happen as well. I mean, he was called to go, he left, that part of the mission agreement was complete. Okay, so what actually took place, right? The other transgressed signal from those beings, those who are not an innocent aspect of this that was exchanged, the opposing fraction, right? These transgressed signals that led back, they actually did not sign the original agreement we had. And the agreement that the Illumined ones we've had with them was, of course, no trespassing, no, hijacking, no distortions, no going against the, human sovereignty. They actually, what we have uncovered then, they never signed the document. This is what we witnessed. And when we were functioning, we actually entered the library, we entered into the High Illumined Council, we actually also went to the Andromeda aspect. I'm going to talk about this as well. It was very advanced. We were just shifting timelines and expanding. So this other transgressed signal got, in a way, it returned back, but it was still negative, right? So in that way, because they never actually signed the agreement, they got served. The opposing fraction got served because they actually did not do as we've agreed. They didn't sign it. And remember when I was talking about in my transgression stories and my vulnerable sharing, and I told you that my team told me we're gathering witnesses. We need to gather as many witnesses as possible. This is like all of you watching. You might not get what I was talking about, but your soul is listening and paying attention. And your souls have been witnessing this. You have to know that the realm of souls is not equal to the realm of humans. At the soul level, there's many more listening and paying attention to what we appear to be witnessing here on the planet, like physically. Right? So because this opposing fraction did not sign the agreement, right? But we actually knew that, and that's how we play them. And it was very foolish and ignorant for them to think that we would not actually get ahead of them, because you have to know something. Illumined light is with God. Therefore, it has the premonition, it has the illumined vision and seership. It is therefore foreseeing and forewarning. We actually knew since the very beginning that actually they won't sign the agreement. We play like we don't know because we play them for fools. And it's how we won in the end, because we actually got them to a point of doing the worst act of transgression that ever took place, because it actually took place against a very own divine illumined Elohim, who I've talked to you about before, was hidden. My family of light has hidden me and masked me under their encoding so that these beings could never originally get to my code. But what were they doing? Remember, I talked to you about this before. They were mining my body for the illumined seed. They were trying to find the illumined seed. We're going to get to the very juicy part here at the end, what actually took place, right? So we knew, let's go back to that point. We knew, and we played along, right, with them, because we knew we were going to actually take them to the High Illumined Elohim Council of what we call the Divine Court. There's not just judicial courts here on the planet. These judicial courts, the higher realms, they're very strict, and they're kind of like, you have to play by the rules. So we were seeing our illumined files or agreements being filed. We had gathered witnesses and signatures, and everything took place. So we took them to the Supreme Elohim Justice Court, which we figured now is in Lyra, right, the Prism of Life. Then at the same time, I was reminded of the Andromedal Council of the Watchers, and these are actually, we wouldn't say higher, but a different counterpart, because the Andromedan galaxy is the twin counterpart of our Earth, Milky Way galaxy, Milky Way galaxy. Well, Earth is a part of Milky Way, yes. So they are actually very neutral. They're like the justice scales, and they're just like gathering the information from both sides equally, non-judging. They're just witnessing, right? They're very neutral, not involved, observer aspect beings. They are the twin balance scale act, and that part was then complete. So the file was sealed, signed, and stored, and we were gathering the witnesses all this time, and enough of them now so we could actually take this to the completion level. So then we, Aurea and Aurea, retrieved the Ascension map. That was the next very important stage of our journey, because what we were actually doing this entire time is we were tracing, right? And you have to know, I have to take you back to this original knowledge of how we act when we're being embodied. The physical counterpart, which is feminine, which is me, the body is the feminine aspect of creation, right? The masculine is that light. So the masculine, in this case, Aureon, right, as my guide from that perspective, he's the one that, he's in charge of these calculations and, what needs to take place. He's the overseeing aspect, and I'm the embodied aspect. So they would then send you the proper energetics for you to alchemize, and what we do, our earth human aspects or counterparts, we do that through our womb. So in our womb, we alchemize these energies that have been fallen, distorted, and all of that. So that's the analogy of me holding that space boy, that science boy, the metallic one in my womb all this time. And it was time, just pit him out, go out, bye. I know, it's just funny, but it's not funny at all. This was a very serious mission. A lot was at stake, and my physical body could have died, because this is not something that was normal or natural to me in any way, right? So the next step was retrieving the ascension map, because this is what we do, right? We're actually tracing the fallen or out of their core creation spin alignment worlds that have become fallen and therefore very distorted, and in their distortion, they're influencing life in general. So, that is something we've been journeying through. And then our agreement was in service to help to restore these fallen worlds for the universal cosmic Christ ascension timeline and the balancing of all the scales. So illumined beings, as I need to say it again, I've talked about it before, we do not fix or save, nor people or souls, nor templates, nor worlds, right? We illuminate through the dark, get the understanding, we'll calculate the spin. We go back to take up that original spin from the central sun stations, and then we imbue it, we breathe life back into that aspect, so a new realm is created. It's kind of like an analogy with what's happening now with Earth and the Earth template, the distorted 3D that has been a fallen 3D timeline, okay? So then through that, we then help to restore and recreate the original but new template. So the birthing of a new realm or a new world, in this case, the world that the boy then entered into. So from our central sun level of light being, illumined embodiment, like I said, that's how we do things. So the masculine and feminine positions as the vertical pillar, that for me is Aurea, and the horizontal pillar, which here is the embodier, in this case me, the womb, the pillar, the tantrika, Polona, Aurea, and this is the life force path I've been holding and cultivating for so many years. No wonder I needed to be so vigilant and so alone all these years to do the preparatory work, have so much consciousness and life force to be able to hold such a dense and metallic essence. It was horrible, and it affected my body, and all these electric discharges through which they were experimenting through me. No wonder it almost killed me off, like I'm a bug, in the system. So what we do then, from the illumined perspective, we take these distortions into the womb of our human counterpart, our human child embodiment, this is me, and then we calculate it and bring it into the original immaculate design, which is the proper spin, right? So we create these looped, encircled and cycled aspects and bring them back to the original spiral of life. And we use our creation names, we use the life force currents of life and direct God source communication. So this was done, Polona's, my body, through Aurea's consciousness, is its own vessel home now, creation avatar for an illumined being template, right? So it was fully restored and reactivated into my third eye, the crystalline vision. That's the next space or essence we worked with. We went into the crystal templating of my third eye, as they kept it hidden before, and that's the most awesome part that actually came into my awareness after realizing what took place. So in my human baby child, that's how my beloved counterpart saw this. She saw this gem hidden in the child. The child was the one receiving it. So it was never fully full on in my adult or this human self yet, right? It was still in the concept or in the conceptual form. And they didn't know that. What this means is that the entirety of the lumen seed did not yet come into the embodiment for me, within me, until the transgression work with these beings was fully completed. So they could have done all the mining work and all the inception work, and they could never have gotten to it because it was not there yet. That was so funny, in a way. How well plotting are we? How intelligent are we? Because we follow God, because we work how God works. That's why we have premonition and vision. And they're limited. They need to rely on us. That's why we keep our things and information hidden, because they can hijack it. So all the information they actually get is from us. So they plug into our bodies with all these cords, they have these hooks and, I don't even call them in webs and whatever. And they're kind of listening, and they have their whispers telling us stuff and all these things just to manipulate the human aspect that is the embodiment aspect, so we wouldn't get there first. But we fooled them, right? We tricked them again, first with the agreement and then at the embodiment level. Haha, fool me once, but never fool me twice, but we fooled them thrice. You're going to see that, okay? Yeah, I'm excited. I'm super excited. So you can see that in my energy, right? I'm just like exuding this exhilarating energy. So, yeah, they kept it hidden within me. it was locked still, right? So now only when this was complete and we released that child and we've done the agreement, we've sealed the deal, and then I was ready to receive my original crystalline vision again, which means the templating seed entering my third eye, so that my vision could be clear again, because my vision was very blurry and foggy for a very long period of time. I couldn't see straight, and all these whispers and things and entanglements, it was so super hard. So the darkness could not locate it, even with all their digging and electrocuting technologies they have through my earth human body. So they could not find it. It was well preserved. She saw this as an ancient manuscript writing, which was actually also a light language, right? And it was also connected to the elemental light language, which there was another whole session with the elementals we've had, and restoring our original elementals, tracing them back again to the original encoding, placing the original life language again. She spoke some light language, I spoke my light language of Aurea's design. It was just amazing. So this was actually activated through the elementals, because the elementals are direct relation with our body elemental. That's why each Elohim goes on a mission with their whole group of elementals, which was my group here when I had my portal here in these Alps, right? So it was activated through the elemental realm and kingdom. My own Aureon, elemental group was watching. They were being trained this entire time with me, and they were waiting. They told me we were waiting for the return of their queen, right? The chosen one, through her descent into the deepest dark. So while I was plunging, right, these 2 years into the transgression, they were kind of staying there, waiting. They were just waiting, because they need your impulse. The elementals need the Elohim light language. They need to be told what to do next, because they're neutral. They're just bystanders, right? So they were waiting. And what was happening is we were about to take place was to restore the Illumined template. So what happened, we saw this was the last crucial step to witness, that the dark actually tried to hijack it all the way to the beginning of our creation story. They wanted to reverse the entire creation story. That was the biggest thing to witness. So they reversed it, not just this realm, not just like Earth. They wanted to do the entire creation, like the myth, the story. So it showed itself as a fallen, to my visionary, it showed itself as a fallen dark dragon, while we, in our higher realms, we had a white, or my dragon is the golden white dragon called Kenneth Karan. That's my dragon. He's beautiful. Our, not mine. My precious. And these dragons are our first manifest aspect of our power, how creation angels, we create ourselves, experience ourselves as an aspect of pure power, okay? But this is fallen power, so they've kind of reversed the dragon. And dragon also sometimes symbolizes the grids, right? The grids, the dragon ley lines, that's what they use. They use this to recalculate, right? So it's not as pure as our original immaculate creation dragons. Now we have then restored the Illumined Elohim children of El template, and then I as Polona Aurea as the first of the chosen ones, the one and only, that was the original seed point, the primary, was to embody the fully restored Elohim design of creation with the immaculate illumined seed of life and life-giving. And they said to me and my beautiful vessel counterpart, she said to me, you're the first-born Elohim here in the planet, like the first with the fully restored template. So now all other Elohim children, which we've talked about in the first video, will be able to follow the pathway via a chosen disciple, illumined one, right? Discipleship path and full embodiment devotion, leading to the illumined beloved embodiment path, which will be the first group as the volunteer souls as chosen mission agents from several angelic realm levels. There's different levels too, you have to know that, right? No comparison, because we each serve individually, uniquely different. So Aurea and Aureon, right, this is their seal, right? They're holding the key or the archway for the golden dawn and lumen tree of life ascension. I've talked about the golden tree of life that Aurea is building, not her as an alone solitary being, but with all these beings, with all the family as one. And this is as the primary creation Elohim presences, the mother-father aspect, in this case Aurea Aureon, of this project of Illumined Union design. And that's really their baby. That's their most loved and adored project, right? So the second group, which is our next to kin, these are our further extensions, these souls who are the first time ascending souls in this life, of course. They're seen by us as our children, but also from a perspective on earth, when we are also physical, they're like brothers and sisters. So my mom would be Florentina, yeah, she's also in a way my child, but here it's like we're sisters, So, and the third group are actually the human, our offspring, who are the human evolving souls that once also they were our own light family extensions offspring. These are the third born, right? They've spent several lifetimes in limbo. Many of these souls, I have to now go to this aspect of our session. And because for them, because they were part of the earth cycles for so long, many of them, I'm not saying all, but a huge majority of these souls have gotten stuck in a limbo in this uncycled looping lifeline, which makes them believe they're actually having multiple lifetimes and growing, but they're actually just living an extended version, like a repetition of watching one life being repeated over and over again. It's very difficult, actually. So they're the repetitive and stagnant timelines hijacked by the dark. So it was not their own fault of these beautiful, precious souls that the growth for them was prevented. And because of that, they now have all received God's divine mercy through our light creation and dispensation. Remember, we talked about it as divine clemency. That was the word received. So through our own workings, when Aurea is super overextending herself, they all received this divine mercy. So we saw a vision of Aurea's mountain portal, also my portal, like live-in physical portal, but there's a physical aspect to this portal. It's just a gateway. It's like an entrance point, but the portal is vast. When you enter it, it's vast. It's not like physical geographical region here, okay? So when we were watching that part, we went into the portal and we was actually watching what's happening to these souls. And these souls were taken there to what we saw before, a temporary tree. It was not yet the golden illumined tree of life, but they were kind of moved to this temporary space. There was a space that got them to, you know, kind of exit that repetitive limbo, right? They were kind of saved in that terminology, although we don't directly come to individual souls and save them and pick them up. But we create a dynamic, a safe dynamic or a protocol through which all the souls could be led. You know, they were led out of the desert into the richness of a temporary oasis, right? So most of these souls even forgot what they're waiting for. She saw them as like, what's even happening? Who are we waiting for? And there was like this finally like an immersion of explosion of knowing started to return to them. They were almost like in hypnotic state, you know, because they've forgotten totally who they are. They were on earth so long, but they're also our extended family members. They're the third born, right? So these beings who once entered the earth realm to explore, they were the first eager ones to explore our realm that we created. The original creation angels created these realms, and they were the ones, the first explorers. They're very old souls. These are old souls. These are not young souls who are immature and therefore not growing. But they were hijacked somewhere along the process, and they were held in this temporary stasis. So they were now being brought back up to the mountain, and I saw them starting to ascend the mountain again, which means that their evolutionary ascending pathway was reignited. And you know, the spark that ignites the flame, that's the inner sacred fire that you have to have sparked up. If your flame totally goes off, then you eventually will revert to a very negative timeline and to a regressive type of being. That's what they became, those who completely lost their sacred flame. But for a lot of these beings, the flame was just, it was there like a little flickering, but it didn't burn. Like with illumined light beings, our flame is super bright. And so now, because this was reignited, they will no longer be stuck. They will get a divine grant and a life force surge to revitalize their lives and ignite the sacred fire passion within. A lot of these beings feel now depressed in their life. They feel like there's a stagnancy, there's no growth. They feel like they're somehow meant to live a certain life. That's all they know. They can do better. They don't know what else is there, because it's not even coming from them. It's like they're watching a TV screen, a projection, but they have been moved. So they will be, after this work is complete and after we do our final stage of ascension, it will be much easier for these beings, right, to revitalize themselves, their lives, and ignite the sacred fire passion within. So a lot of these beings, if we have connections to them, they're awakening through us. So when you grow in your power, they grow with you. They're kind of like taken through our wombs. A lot of these have gotten the seed of life through us. There's a really long and complex story. I don't want to go into it because most of you would not understand what does that mean. But it doesn't matter. Just embrace what I'm saying. Just trust, okay? Trust Source and this beautiful, intelligent plan. So this group of souls was the third one included in our ingenious divine plan. As for many, it was difficult to release the karmic influences in their lives due to the heavy dark distortions and manipulation. A lot of them even got hijacked. They have astral possession and, you know, a lot of these things. And through divine clemency and orchestration of light, they have now received not only refuge from the dark intervention and interception, but also total divine protection as their legacy of light will continue on. So they have received divine protection. God literally watches over these beings. We've petitioned for them. That's what we did. We're like, God, we want to save these. Not like save you individually, but these are the ones we will take with us because they deserve it. And God saw through our eyes how we see them. God needed to witness them as we saw them. And God was like, okay, we're taking them. I'm going to send them. I saw God sending them an extremely potentialized burst of divine raw. It's like that eros power, yeah, that sexual life force burst. So they will reignite. It will reignite probably gradually because they've been like stuck for so long. You can't just get it all at once, but they will be reimbursed. Okay. Many of these souls have asked for us for such assistance in their process of divine remembrance. I had such a soul coming to me and say, please help me remember. I'm like, okay, you know, there's several, but it's like some were really like calling us out. Some of them even completely forgot who they were or are. And a lot of these souls, they are very advanced, but through these regressive types of earth embodiments, they no longer knew how to use their divine intelligence. And many of them, as you know, they're angels themselves, and Spirit calls them sleeping angels. So it's sometimes difficult for us to watch these beings because we don't want them to suffer, but it's themselves that they need to learn to reignite their flame. God will reimburse it, but they will then need to learn how to work with their sacred flame. So as Aurea awakens fully in Polona, me, and begins her last stage of full body restoration and illumination work, these light codes will then be fully distributed and exuded into this field of the chosen ones. Okay? Through the trunk of the tree of life that I now represent, right? The tree, and then you have the roots, those on the earth. With other words, as she fully restores her human body, which is the process we will now enter through me and the work I'll be doing in my withdrawal and retreat time, it helps to revitalize their sacred fire as well as via her inversion of the reversal that they've fueled with life force currents as well. So this reversal will impact all of life and all of these souls because we've done it at the core level. So that's why I said we don't go to individuals and we try to save them like they're babies. No, we go to the core of where the distortion first took place and we handle things there. That's what we were doing. That's how badass we are, okay? Respect, okay? So their sacred flame will begin to rise towards illumination once again. And I'm the happiest for this group. This is my favorite group, actually. I'm so thrilled at what will start happening to these beautiful children, also angels. And then the last chapter, of importance of the sacred beloved path is meeting and rejoining that's something I witnessed, right? Of these Illumined mission counterparts. I already knew my mission counterpart. And you have to know, creation angels, we access three main levels of what the beloved is for us, meaning our counterpart, not the beloved that is you, the human, the body, right? Because you are, of course, your first chosen, your firstborn beloved. You're always that beloved for yourself. But when I talk about, like me, the masculine counterpart, I have this highest creation angel archetype, Aurea embodiment, who is this, what I call my twin soul, this high illumined being counterpart. That's the creation counterpart. Then we have the mission beloved. That's the one that's chosen through different realms for you, the one that goes on mission work and does mission work with you. And then there's the human beloved, that is the human counterpart. And a while ago they said to me, you know, creation angels, we don't have counterparts on earth. They said we create them because we imbue this beautiful lumen seed to help them spark up the memory, and then they get closer and closer to us and they start reigniting the love they have within themselves, right? So this beloved journey is very important, and this is something that's most honorably dear to me in my heart here. The journey I've witnessed is the meeting and rejoining of this beautiful sacred beloved, my counterpart, my visionary, the chosen one, and her mission beloved. Remember the being I talked to you about as this beautiful master that my mother connected to, his name being Lamayan? And remember, I was asking him a while ago, like, how do you know me? I don't know you, Lamayan. How am I connected to you? Because I can't remember. That was the last memory piece I was missing. I couldn't get it. I'm like, why is he here? There's something deeper. I always felt like there's something more than just someone having a contact with my mother. Guess what happens, right? Remember when Lamayan told me a while ago, he said, when I asked, but how do you know me? And he replies to me, but who doesn't know you, Aurea Dawn? I'm like, okay, whatever that means, I'm fine. You know, obviously I'm famous up there. I don't know. You know, he said, yes, everyone admires my work. And through my mother's channeling, Lamayan was always so adoring and admiring, and he was so honoring of us. But something just was missing. And then we were doing the next session work, and I'm like, I just need you as my eyes and ears to help me figure out who Lamayan is. And in that instant, just telling his name, she's like, I know him. He was with me in this monk life. He was with me. He was always with me. And then it's like, oh, and I was guiding her. We were doing the session, and he came through, and oh, I have goosebumps all over. This was my favorite part of our missions. You cannot believe the beauty when mission partners meet. And our mission partners are not physical because they cannot be physical with us. They're holding a different vibrational space of density while we're holding physicality as human counterparts, right? So they're there doing their preparations, like you would say, oh, they're the 5 density. I don't know, I'm not going to claim that, but they are not physical. And she said he was supposed to go on this mission, but I was chosen. And I told her, yes, because you're the feminine protocol, and you knew you were well more established in the feminine protocol that was needed in this lifetime. We needed to be us as women. And she was more skilled in the feminine protocol. And when they joined, he was thrilled. And I saw her through his eyes. It was just amazing. And he was witnessing her with such love, and he was looking at her like she's this beautiful creature, this piece of eye candy. I don't mean just physically. And he had so much love for her, and I was just joining them together, helped them to have, it was like this ceremony, this wedded ceremony we were having. It was Aurea, and it was them, and again we formed the Trinity, and it was just so beautiful, right? And after that, receiving this truth about the mission beloveds, we were then witnessing the sacred union and receiving a channeled message. It was the last part of this mission training. And that part was for a human child. What happens now, what happens after with our human counterpart, right? So we received that the Tantric Illumined Union is now the goal. It's the ultimate goal for us, because this is how we copulate in a way, you know? It means that the plan of the entire family, and this was when I was channeling. I was the one doing the channeling. She was the receptive one here. And it was like the entire, sometimes a specific being speaks, sometimes it's the Arcturian pulsars, and she met them too. That we did another session of just reimbursing her into their protocol and who they are and what they do. And she was like, oh my goodness, they're amazing. I'm like, I know, they're like bubbles of love. They're just incredible beings, right? The pulsars, right? They're the pulsars. And when we were doing this channeling, it was like the whole family was speaking. The whole family of light was speaking to us. And she said, I'm just so sorry I didn't record this. This was the most beautiful piece of channeling I've ever received in my life. And it was really beautiful. And I don't know, I was on the behalf of channeling it, so I don't remember it as well. But it was about this, that the Tantric Illumined Union is now the goal, because it will bring us the feeling of sensualizing our earthly human form experience that deserves this. And this will be kind of like our last chapter. And when I got the vision, I saw us flying as 2 free doves. And then we were having these crowns, like 2 queens. But then the channeling was, the guidance was, no, you to drop your crowns. And the crown literally represents the crowning jewel of the mission, which now when complete, now you can safely throw it down. And when the crown was falling down into the valley, to all the people down below that still needed, that they needed the flower of life that this crown birthed. Like the 2 crowns formed the Vesica Pisces, and then they became a full rounded flower of life. And the throwing down of these crowns was like dropping and releasing this expectation of the mission and the pressure of the mission as 2 queens now ready to just be crowned with the birthing of the new for our human experience, right? So before we leave the earth, we also wanted to have our earth self-created experience. And this is something I'm going to be talking about in the last part of the video, Trinity. And it will be through our own time and our own will. And it's time now to receive our union gift and reward through the miracle of God. And the statement of God here has always been, as God told me since the beginning, the Illumined and the Earth Beloved will be one. They will be joined, they will be wedded, they will be in sacred journey. And here is Gamos. Okay? So then the cultivation of this union path will be representing the re-entrance of the beloved into my sacred heart space. So I'm needing now to open up to this sacred flame, the fire of the beloved. That's an aspect of me that I love the most, because mission aside, I am a lover. I love deeply, I love profoundly, I love truly, madly, deeply. That's what I am. And I'm now needing to step into this part of mine. It was saved for the last, and you will see why in the last video message. So here I was explained and shown the Trinity of the beloveds, like Aurea, to Aurea, then my mission counterpart, who has a specific name that was just the name for me. And then the physical beloved that, I was meeting, especially through a very specific being in my physical human life. And all these 3 levels, as they said, are as the creation beloved, right? You then get to create your beloved. They said creation angels, we create our beloveds. And that becomes your, like the essence partner, the mission partner, and the earth beloved become one. The earth partner as the beloved, they're one. They're a full rounded trinity again. So everything we do functions through a trinity. And this is how then we will cultivate the sacred beloved fire. And that will be the illumined archway for the ascension through the tantric beloved path. And I'll talk about this in the last 3rd part of the video. So then, actually afterwards, I did a pulsar with the Illumined Arcturians. They're like bubbles of love. They're like these light orbs, and they're incredibly intelligent. They're also very sparky. They make you laugh from inside your belly. They're just amazing, and they're incredible. They're really incredible, and they always have talked to me, like I've shared too, like they're talking to me like, Queenie, royal, at your royal service. I'm like, what royal service? What are you talking about? Those years back when I didn't know what I was and what I'm doing here, right? And what even the word queen itself represents. And it's not an archetype of any entitlement. And we're going to talk about that as well in the last part. But they came and they actually showed me, they said, we're now going to do a pulsar for the physical body to do the reversal. So it's not just in visionary, in the dreamscape, in setting the templating work, but we're going to do it physically. So they came and I did a pulsar that was, I remember it was on Sunday. I was just sitting there on my balcony and I was pulsating like hell. And I was spinning and they were so excited. They were like, yeah, we're finally reversing it, and they were really excited. And then suddenly afterwards, I'm watching myself, like I was observing myself, and I went back in time. And I traveled back in time when I was still living in the city suburbs, and I was wearing lots of pink back then. I was really, someone even called me Pinky. I was like, I was Pinky. And I don't know, but I wore pink all the time. And that was actually when I got my first seed of this beloved and beloved love. And it was also activated for me in my path after meeting someone. I didn't know that, and I was shown that timeline. And then I was shown the timeline. I was watching myself and this individual meeting. But the problem was that at that time I already had a transgression in me. So what I saw was that being lovingly approaching me, and we were actually communicating through those panels. Like you have a board, cardboard, but you have it like written something, a sign, right? We were wearing signs. We were like sign language to each other. And that person, he was carrying a sign, and the sign said, "Love you?" ? They were just there, share love with me. And my sign was very awful. My sign said, "No trespassing." And right behind it, I saw the transgressionists who were already doing the lab experiments, and they were holding me onto this, entanglement like possession. And no, you belong to us. You're our experiment. No camaraderie, no love for you. So what they do, the transgression, is they actually reverse everything. So let's say someone who's actually very good for you at the love level, they would kind of like bounce right back off. And that's actually everything they do and say, it's exact opposite. It's reversed. So in this, when I was doing my own reversal, I was being shown how to reverse it. And the Illumined Arcturian archetypes, these beautiful love bombs, they were actually showing me how to reverse timelines, like how to go back in time and follow through when the inception first began. So I witnessed this, with the no trespassing. And, when my visionary, when she went into the scene when, we observed the transgression, and transgression is, she saw like a institution, like a lab, and she saw many beings there. And she said, because of what you did, many of them are now free to walk away. They just have to wake up to the fact that they can wake up from this transgression. She was really witnessing that lab, and she said, wow, it was really horrid. And no one even knows what the vile things you've experienced and what happened to you. And physically it was, I cannot explain, the distortion this causes in your body. But also at the level of love, so that your human self cannot even feel that love of the beloved. And they reversed everything. And then they showed me how to do it. So they said, just replace that. And I replaced these writings, right? And I saw the individual asking me again, and I just said, yes, why not, with bold red letters. And then I saw the vision of us when we were back in that time. I saw how this timeline of that reversal through transgression caused a lot of rejection on the behalf of this relationship that was just trying to show me the acceptance of the earth human love, and that I also am worthy and deserving of love. But I was very much feisty at that time because it was already being experimented on, since 2010, very heavily. And so I was very much in that egoic, like get things off, no one gets me, no one understands me, people are just using you. And it's actually the transgressionists that were the abusers. They were the real abusers. They actually create this victim protocol, which means they isolate their victims. And when you're in that isolated space, they actually come as your rescuers, and they're the good ones, right? They're doing upgrades on you, and all the other ones are actually, they just want to do bad things to you. And they want to present these humans who actually we have soul agreements with, they present us as bad and faulty ones. So that was a great day of victory for me, because I finally reversed those timelines. And at first I thought I made a mistake because I was so prickly, I was just like bouncing these energies off and saying no, rejection, because I myself was actually feeling rejected because of what was happening to me, right, with those experiments. So my family and the Arcturians then said, no, you just need a good do-over, you just need a good rematch. They said rematch, and this was exactly what was taking place. They said, we now create the timelines through the sovereign human embodied counterpart that you are now becoming. So I was actually then just witnessing this earth exchange and how the scenes with that individual were changing when I shifted the timeline. It was just amazing, right? So they were training me to do that. So what I felt then was that my non-acknowledgement, because I was not acknowledged myself, caused a field of rejection energy that kept being replayed over and over again, especially between the inner feminine in me and then the masculine counterpart, right? So I just went there in the essence field and signaled to him, I do see you, I do acknowledge you, I see you in that weight of the truth through love. And that was done. It was sealed. That was done. Which brought me back to the inspired vision that I had, the one I shared with you, with the queen choosing her lovers and choosing her that serve you. And then I saw the message coming from that being saying to me at the soul level, it is an honor and privilege to serve you, my queen. And it was really beautiful exchange. It was just a self-mutual honoring. So yeah, then the last thing that took place is we dropped our message boards completely. And before we embraced, I heard my team saying, come on, drop the swords, Polona, drop the swords. So I had to drop them all. I had no choice to do so and let them go and just be myself again fully. And it was like I needed to witness that timeline of where this inception at the beloved, embracing the human beloved love took place for me, and how distorted it was, and why it became such a mess, followed by rejection and piling up of more rejection, right? So the human child was then the last step of the sessions we did together with my beloved counterpart. In this last step, we went into a deep session. It was Aurea holding us together in the womb, like in the mother's womb. She sang to us songs of creation. And when we did that, she was saying to her human physical child that, this is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to now do yourself, to understand that you are not just a child anymore. You are the mother and the child at the same time. You're going to mother yourself perfectly throughout this process of earth, human incarnation, being as a sovereign angel being. And the next morning, I received a message telepathically from her. Yes, we did it. It helped to save my inner child. We saved the child. It was very simple, right? So when Aurea sang these songs of creation, there was just this feeling of the return to the immaculate point of conception for the human child before we actually were imprinted with regressive types of consciousness. So there were several timelines we needed to reverse and shift, and this took us back to our birthing point. We did this at the conception level, which was for the human child to actually receive all the love, all the nourishment, all the support. It was that anchor point the seed of Elohim brought back in the memory. This was our birth. This was our original birthing point, the song of life. And I was told then in the channeling of Aurea, through Aurea, that, just like earth mothers sing to their babies, the creation angels sing to their creations, and that's how we re-spark them up. So that was actually a major portion of the sessions complete. And like I said, in this last lifeline, I was given these two major statements to contemplate. And we're going to touch upon them in the last segment of the videos. First ones was, when we're always thinking about going home, ascending where, they kind of told me like, are we going home or are we creating a home? And the second one was that the illumined ones, we don't have an earth counterpart, we create them, right? So this was really interesting because everything then kept bringing me back to the power of creativity, the power of creation as a sovereign being, and who we are as creation angels, as pure creation and working with God's life force. So this will be continued in the mission statement plan for the new creation cycle and the completion of this. I hope you will stay with me. I know this one was a long one. It was a biggie, but I managed to pull through, and you're still somehow here with me. Those of you who managed to come this far enough, thank you for being here. Those of you who will go to part 3, congratulations. I hope you're with me. And as always, as so much love pouring from my heart to yours, with love, wisdom, and power, I will see you in the next one. Wink again. I'll see you.